Hey guys, I'm sorry for being a little bit late. Was having some technical issues with my computer. Hopefully that those technical issues don't transition into this live broadcast. But apologies for being away for 2 weeks, I think it was. Yeah, I've been traveling, unfortunately, so I couldn't do the Monday critique. I could do the Monday critique mobile, but it just won't be the same. At least I don't think it will be the same. So welcome guys to the yet another Monday critique. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I'm having a wonderful day. If you guys cannot hear me, please put some comments down in the comment section and let me know if you cannot hear me so that I can adjust, so I don't feel like I'm talking to no one. So if you guys haven't submitted any images to the Monday critique before, you could submit your images to the Fine Art Photography group. If you guys haven't joined that group just yet, thank you, Wayne. Good. So if you guys haven't joined the group yet, I will show you guys where you can join the group and how you can submit your images. And then when I show you guys how you can do that, we'll jump into the two Monday critique images that we're going to review. So let me just show you that. Let me switch screens really quickly here. This is where it gets a little bit awkward because I have to look at the screen to get this done. So give me 1 second, guys. All right. Just bringing it up here. Okay, so I think I have it up. Let me switch. Okay. So here is where you could submit your Monday critique. The group is called Fine Art Photography and Modeling. And in that group, someone asked me this on IG today, like, how do you submit your images? And this is exactly how you do it. You have to first join the group. By the way, guys, when you submit a request to join the group, I think it's about 3 questions. If you don't answer those 3 questions, I probably won't let you in the group. But, if you answer those 3 questions, you'll come straight in. And it's not, hard questions. I just want to know who you are, how you hear about the group, what do you shoot, and stuff like that. So just answer the questions and you join straight into the group. Once you're in the group, there's this pin post at the top of the group, and it's basically, you will just go here and go to the comment section. And in the comment section, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of images already submitted here. What you would do is you would just go to the last comment and you would just add your image to it. Okay, so that's pretty much how you submit your images to be critiqued. Now, given that we're already here, I don't want to basically give you guys that awkward pause again where I have to switch between my view and the desktop view. So we're gonna just stay right here for a minute, and then we're gonna jump straight into the Monday critique. Just a simple reminder, guys, as I'm going through the Monday critique, if you guys have any comments about the particular images, like if you have a different viewpoint than I do about the particular image, please put those comments in there, because it will help with the conversation and help the Monday critique, better. I don't know everything, so I'm just giving my opinion, but it's great to get everyone involved to, tell us what I missed or what you think you're seeing that I don't see. Okay, so it just becomes a little bit more interactive, and that's why I like to do these Monday critique live, because it's more interactive. All right, so I'm gonna begin, and like I said, as I go through this, if you have any comments, just go ahead and drop it in there. Even though I'm not gonna be reading it right now, just drop it in and I will get to it as soon as I'm finished with my portion of the critique, okay? All right, so the first image that we're gonna critique here is called, it was submitted by Mario Fernando. Now, when Mario submitted this image, he also did submit the settings associated with these images. So he shot the image at 1/250th of a second at aperture 3.5. The ISO was 100. You use a 50mm lens on this. You also use 1 speed light, camera upper left, with a 60 by 60 centimeter softbox. You also added just an additional commentary here. It says the model applied coconut oil on her skin, okay? Which I think actually is a good idea. In this particular case, it was a very good idea. So let's proceed, okay? I'm gonna maximize this. Hopefully you guys can see my cursor, and you can. Awesome. So when I critique images, I like to critique images looking at three things, really, is the light, the composition, and post-production. I then sometimes talk about light, pose, composition, and then sometimes I go into post-production, okay? So those are the things that I like to talk about, and that's how I'm gonna structure my critique. So if you never joined the Monday critique before, that's pretty much how it goes down, okay? So the first thing that we're gonna start with is light in this particular image. Now, when Mario submitted this image, he did say that the light was coming in from camera left, top left. Okay, that's where it was coming in from. So I'm guessing he had his light stand somewhere over here, and he had it above the subject. So from a lighting perspective, I think overall, generally speaking, I think the lighting is pretty good in this particular image. I really do. The one thing I would have done differently, just a little bit differently in this particular image, and I think this was the same model I critiqued 2 weeks ago when I did the last Monday critique, I think it was. And I think I had the same comment about that model in that image. So the same comment that I had 2 weeks ago is the same comment I have here. So if you look under the subject's eyes here, right, both of her eyes, you'll notice that it's not that pronounced, but you will notice that's a little bit in shadow. So, and the reason I know that is because of what Mario said about his light position. He said the light was positioned camera left, top camera left, right? So if I was shooting this, I would have suggested to the model to elevate her chin just a little bit more towards that light. And what that would allow the model, what that would allow the light to do is basically brighten those shadows that's under her eyes a little bit more, okay? And that's the one thing that I would have done a little bit differently with respect to the light in this image. Another thing that I would have done, either in post-production or with the light, or maybe with the settings on the camera, is I would have used the light to basically put another light, or get another light, put it on the jacket, so that you can see a little bit more details in the jacket, and also on this pants or shorts that she have on. You can't really see much of the details here, so I would have suggested, you know, having another light just to add just more detail there. Yeah, when I look at this, it just feels like, you know, like if you do like a composite, like somebody put a composite on her, which is like a pants or something, because you don't see that much details, and that's the problem with it, okay? But I think you could have resolved this in post by basically bringing up the shadows just a little bit more. And the same thing could be said with respect to her here, right? You can't see much details, at least what I'm seeing on my end here. I can't see much details there. So that's what I would have suggested there from a lighting perspective. But overall, oh, and there's one other thing. Generally, when I shoot and I'm utilizing either artificial light or natural light, once you find that main source of light, in your case, your main source of light was coming in from camera left, generally, I try not to shoot in the same direction of where my main light is coming from. So it seems like you were on camera left, your light was on camera left, and you were shooting on camera left. So generally, I would try to go on the opposite side. So I would be here on the right-hand side, which would be camera right, and try to shoot her from this side. The reason for that is so that you could get a little bit more definition on her shadow, okay? So that's the only reason, more definition on our chin rather, not on our shadow, on our chin. So that's the only reason I would go in the opposite direction of the main light, just to get more definition, okay? And that's about all I have to say with respect to the lights, with respect to the lighting in this image. Again, just a reminder, guys, if you have any comments about lighting or anything like that, just drop it in the comments just in case I missed something in this particular image. All right, so now let's move on to the pose in this image. So from a posing perspective, when I looked at this image, I thought immediately, obviously, we have a very, beautiful woman here, right? So you get distracted, I guess, overall from that visual, right? But then when you start to analyze and look at the pose a little bit more, like I would, to myself, I say, what if you put this pose, this same exact pose on a different subject? Would it work? Would it not work? And even on this particular subject, does it really work for her? Now, the one thing I usually always say when I'm trying to pose a woman is to give curves, always add curves to the woman, because, like most women, if you're looking at it, they don't want to see an image if they don't have any curves in it. At least that's in my opinion, right? So obviously this subject has a lot of curves. You cannot not see that. You could see she has a lot of curves. So she has natural curves. It's not like you have to add to make that happen, okay? But what I would say, in order to make this image a little bit more elegant, in order to enhance those curves, is one thing I would have done here is this leg. When I saw it, I was like, okay, that was the only thing that drew me into this image. When I looked at it from a posing perspective, I looked at it and I looked at her knee and her leg. Generally, what I try to do is not have the knee or elbow or something like that facing the camera, because it just looks like it's one. It just doesn't look appropriate. So what I would have done here is I would have, if you wanted to maintain the same position and like the subject's, straight onto the camera, the only thing I would have done here is just move the subject knee to this side. So that would have give her a nice little S shape from here down. This particular, leg positioning for me is just a little bit off, but that's, if I wanted to pick this image, which is what I'm doing here. And I think, yeah, if you just make that one change, I think that would have been better for this subject. But I think what she was doing here is mostly freestyle, and I don't know if you posed her that much, but I think she was freestyling and you caught a particular image that you liked. The one thing I do love about this image is the subject's expression, as far as from a posing perspective, because posing is combining with not only the legs and arms and body position and all that stuff. It's all about, getting a great expression from your subject as well. You don't want like a statue, right? You want a subject that has a great expression. So that's what I would say overall with respect to the pose. The hand position in here, the way she have it, the only thing I would have said is, bring this left arm down just a little bit more, so at least it's, instead of it being 90 degrees, and it will be a little bit more more like 60 or 70 degrees as opposed to 90 degrees. It's right now it's just a little bit too strong for my taste, but I would just bring that down, just like how this arm is, positioned. I would have bring this arm just down a little bit more, and this might be just my OCD here, but I don't like the and this has nothing to do with posing. It's just something I just thought about right now. I don't like the jacket on the floor, but again, that's just my little OCD there. So anyways, moving on. All right, let's talk about the composition. So before I go on to composition, again, if you guys have any comments about posing, if anything that I missed, agreed, if you guys agree with, disagree with it, drop it in the comments so that when I'm done, we can have a conversation about it. All right, so now let's move on to the composition in this image. So from a compositional perspective, I like the way that you framed this image. The fact that you have this pole here and this pole here, I liked how you framed it. So from that perspective, that is great. I love that. The only thing I would have suggested, maybe you could have done this in post, because I'm kind of seeing, it might have been a little bit difficult even to position her to get it correct, right? So this pole here, or this part of the window, for me is just a little bit distracting. So in post, if you could have, I would have basically tried to take this part out and take this part out here, down here. So if you take those two parts out, from a compositional perspective, she would have been perfectly framed in this window, which would have been perfect. What I was thinking is maybe, moving her back so her head could be here, but then you have these two poles coming out of her shoulders. So where you have her, in my opinion, is fine. I just think in post, you probably would have just removed this pole here and then removed this pole, and then you should have been good to go. And then lastly, going back to this code again, I'm just nitpicking on this code, sorry. I would have tried to have all of the code in the shot as opposed to cutting off a little bit. Sometimes when you cut off things in images, is either intentional or unintentional. This to me feels like it was unintentional. So that means when you were looking at the corner of your frame in your viewfinder, you probably didn't notice this part here. So I guess let us know if that was intentional or unintentional. To me, it feels like it was unintentional. So I would say, bring it into the frame a little bit more. And that's it from a compositional perspective. That's all I have to say. Once again, guys, if you have any comments about composition, about this image, drop it in the comments so we can have a conversation about it after. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about in this image is about the post-production, just a little bit. I don't have too much to say about the post-production, but I guess just one or two things I wanted to say. So the first thing I wanted to say is sometimes when you composing a shot or you have a location, sometimes you could eliminate a lot of things and sometimes you can't eliminate. You just have to work with whatever you have, and then with the glorious magic of post-production, you could go in there and clean things up. And I think in this particular case, I think you could have done that, go into post and clean things up and make it a little bit more elegant. So what I would have said from a post-production perspective, in addition to all this other stuff that I mentioned about post-production, which is the pole and all that stuff, cleaning up little imperfections. So this little reflection or whatever this is here, I would have get rid of that in post. Cleaning this up, I would have gotten rid of that in post. And then lastly, what I would have done is also I would try to isolate the subject a little bit more. So what I've been known for, well, not known for, what I do to my image, and a lot of people probably don't notice it, is that I put a little bit of a vignette on most of my images. And obviously you have to, when you do vignettes, you got to just make sure that you're not doing it, not applying the vignette to the fullest extent, right? You just have to make sure that you apply it to taste and it just blends in with the image. So I would apply just a little bit of a vignette on this image so that you could isolate the subject a little bit more. And those are the only two things that I would have said from a post-production perspective with this image. So that is it. That's all I have to say about this image. So I'm going to go to the comments and see what people have to say about this image. So Photo Me Ike is in the building. What's up, Ike? So Anthony's also in the building. What's up, Anthony? So Anthony is saying here, it looks like she's resting her body weight on that arm, though moving it down would likely have changed her posture. I agree. and also to change the light positioning, which is the other thing that I talked about before. But yeah, I totally agree. Anthony also says, I would say if, hang on. Let's say if I were to remove the window frame behind the subject, he would need to remove the frame 2 over to keep it proportionate. Otherwise, it will look odd. So Anthony is basically saying that if what I'm suggesting here, if he removes the pole from here, and then remove this pole, it would just look odd. And what I'm saying is if he removes this pole, it will isolate her in this particular frame here. All right, that's what I'm saying. So I hope that made sense. All right. So if no one else have any comments about this particular image, we will move on to the next image. All right, so let's move on. All right, so I will not attempt to pronounce this gentleman's name because I'll probably butcher it. Oh, Anthony is clarifying here. He just says, got that. I'm just saying I would crop out 2 frames. Okay, so you basically suggesting he crop in a little bit closer. Okay, the one behind her, then the 1 2 over. So let's go back to that image again. The one behind her and the 2 over. So these 2. So basically leaving this frame. So basically getting rid of it. And that would work too. I was just trying to save him some work, but that would work as well. All right, moving on to this next image here. So I'm not going to try to pronounce this gentleman's name because, like I said, I might try to, Kasim? I think that's right. Kasim. So Kasim submitted this image here of this gentleman, and I'll just read you guys the settings of this particular image. Now, once again, guys, have any comments, drop them in the comment section about this particular image, whether you agree, disagree, or whatnot with respect to my critique. So let's begin. So the settings that Kasim submitted here for this particular image, he shot this on a Nikon D7100 with an 85mm lens, which is a 1.8. He shot this at 1/250th of a second at f8, ISO 100. He utilized a young, I'm not going to say that because I'm butchering that one too. Well, let's just put it a speed light. He shot it with a speed light 563 and a 80 centimeter umbrella softbox camera left, triggering with a Yongnuo 560TX. Okay, so that's pretty much what he utilized for this particular image. So this is just a 1 light setup. Okay, so let's start with the light. Now, before I start with the light, the only thing I do not know with respect to this image is what was this image being used for? Is this like a corporate headshot? Is it supposed to be like a fashion type image? I don't know. I don't know what the image was supposed to be used for, but my guess is, given that he's in a suit, my guess is maybe it was for, you know, a corporate headshot or a personal headshot or something like that. And if it was, if I'm correct in that assumption, the way the light is set up, basically what we have here is split lighting on the subject's face. And split lighting, for the most part, for men, you know, works great. They give them that nice dramatic look that you could use to enhance your images and add something a little bit different to your portfolio. But when I look at this image, you know, if I'm right about this image being used for some type of business, you know, headshot that he's using for something, you know, a LinkedIn profile or whatever, this type of lighting probably won't be the best lighting for that. That being said, if it wasn't for that, you know, LinkedIn profile or whatever, I like the dramatic look to it, which is great. I'll talk about post-production in this image because there's certain things in this particular image that's not right from a post-production, but I'll talk about that when we get to the post-production aspect of it. The other thing I would have done with respect to the lighting is I would have raised or elevate the light just a little bit more. It seems like the light was, you know, as far as the position, and it seems like it was at this level, you know, at the chin level of the subject. The reason I say that is that you could see a lot of the light falling on the subject's body here as well. You don't have as much light falling at the top of the subject. The other thing I would have tried to do here is maybe add an additional light in the back so you could try to separate the subject from the background just a little bit. But other than those two things, I think, like I said, you have a nice dramatic image here. I just don't know what this image was being used for. So if it's a LinkedIn profile, I would think you want to come up with a different type of lighting setup for that. But other than that, it's fine. I think overall it's fine. All right. So guys, if you have any comments about the lighting, please drop that in the comment section so we could talk about it. If not, we'll move on. So I'm moving on now to the pose in this image. Now, like I said, posing for me is not just, you know, moving body parts and stuff like that. It's also about getting a great expression from your subject. So when I look at this particular image, obviously it's like a headshot, right? So when I look at this particular image, the one thing that I'm not seeing here is any real type of expression from this subject. Like, I'm not really getting a sense that this is who this person is. And the reason for that is when you're dealing with headshots, there's really little things that you could change with respect to the subject to get that expression. And the two things that you could change is, you know, having the subject either squint their eyes just a little bit, give them a little smile, parting the lips. These are the little hints of, these are little things that you could do to just try to bring out that expression from the subject. Having the subject laugh, you know, having them close their eyes and then, you know, opening up really quickly, you know, while you're trying to catch that in-between moment. You know, having them turn away from the camera, turning back, just to see if you could get, you know, that personality out of them, okay? And when I look at this particular image, I just don't feel, it feels more like a test shot to me than more of an actual portrait. So I would say just, you know, on the next one that you're doing, you know, just try to, you know, maybe play some music, maybe something to get that person to give you a little bit more from that headshot session, okay? So now let's move on to the composition. So with respect to the composition, I totally have nothing to say about your composition. The composition, I think, is spot on. I think it's perfect. So yeah, I don't have much to say about your composition. It's really, really great. So we'll move on. So again, guys, have any comments about this image, drop it in the comment section. Whether you have a comment about lighting, the posing, or the composition. So now I'm going to talk about the post-production in this image. So from a post-production perspective, here's where dodging and burning will come in very handy with this particular image. Okay, so, and I know dodging and burning is a technique that, you know, evolves over time. I know I'm still, you know, evolving with the technique. So I would say practice, and it will get better. So here's a couple of things that I'm seeing with respect to this image that with dodging and burning, it would have helped, just smooth out the transitions between light and shadows, because that's all what, dodging and burning is all about, smoothing out the transitions between light and shadow. Some people try to cheat and utilize like frequency separation and doing the Gaussian blur and stuff like that, which you can for a quick fix. If you have like a whole bunch of images that you need to do, you can absolutely utilize frequency separation and blur out the skin. I think I have a video on that somewhere. So if I do, I'll put the link in it after this video in the card above the video. So what you can do, okay? So if you look at the subject's face, you have like these dark spots here, right? Dark spots here, dark spots here, if I can say the word dark. Dark spots here under his eyes. Then you have these dark spots here. So you have all these various dark spots on the subject's face, and all of this is just the shadows on the subject's face, just different levels between the light and shadow on the subject's face. So with dodging and burning, what you will basically do is you'll basically utilize dodging, which is basically adding light, and just basically make this dark spot just a little bit lighter until it basically transitions between this light part and this dark part just a little bit smoother, okay? And you will go through and do that throughout the entire image on the subject's face until you have a nice balanced image. And that's what I would suggest in this particular case. So that is all I have to say with respect to this image. Overall, I think if it's not a corporate type image, I think from a dramatic image perspective, I really think you nailed this image. But if it's for a LinkedIn type profile or something like that, I would suggest doing a different type of lighting setup, maybe like a 2-light setup. And instead of having the light so directly to the left of the subject, bring it around a little bit more so it can light both sides of the subject's face. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have to say about this image. Let's jump into the comments and see what everyone else have to say about this image, if anything. All right, see. Photo of me, Ike. Well, thank you very much for the submission. Let me just switch my camera. And let me put on the chat here. Yes, photo of me, Ike. Thank you very much for that donation. I appreciate it. So what? For some reason, I think that's a self-portrait. One N Sally suggested that this may be a self-portrait. It may be. If it is, everything that I just suggested is still applicable though, because you still need to get that personality out of it. It's just, it feels a little bit stiff to me. So what are the suggestions you guys have about these images, if any? If you don't, I will try to wrap up this session and then move on. And I'll probably do a live, I'll probably go on live immediately after this and just have like a general conversation with you guys. Hey Ernesto, would you lose texture on, so Rod is asking here. Hey Ernesto, would you lose texture on the face when using dodge and burn versus frequency separation? So using dodge and burn, Absolutely not. You do not lose any texture on the subject's face. In fact, I would recommend that you utilize frequency separation. I'm sorry, not frequency separation. You utilize dodge and burn over frequency separation any day of the week. The reason for that is that you would retain the texture on the subject's face, and you would have a much more balanced image than you would when you utilize a frequency separation. Now, don't get me wrong, I utilize frequency separation. A lot of people utilize frequency separation, but the problem with most people when they utilize frequency separation is that they kind of abuse it a little bit, in the sense that they make the skin appear so smooth that it's unnatural, right? Like the texture that you're referring to, it's completely lost. So when you utilize in frequency separation, you just have to utilize it in moderation. So imagine if you apply 100%, utilizing, Photoshop has the percentage of the opacity, 100% on the opacity. So imagine you apply 100% of your frequency separation on that layer. Okay. What I would suggest after you apply your frequency separation is probably bringing down that effect from 100% to maybe like 10% or 20%, so that it doesn't have that much of a effect on your image. It has a small effect, but not much of an effect on your image. And that way you'll be able to get, retain some of your frequency separation. So that's what I would suggest there. Utilizing dodge and burn over frequency separation. So Anthony says, I'm surprised you would pick dodge and burn over frequency separation. If frequency separation is done right, it very much keeps the detail in the skin while allowing the user to blend the skin tones. I agree, but a lot of people abuse frequency separation. So I would suggest, if you hone your skills on dodging and burning, you'll find that dodging and burning absolutely has a lot of power to it. I personally started utilizing dodging and burning about, I want to say 2 years, but it's more like a year and change. Prior to that, I was a heavy user. I'm still a user of frequency separation, don't get me wrong. But prior to that, I was a heavy user of frequency separation. I mean, everything that I did, every image that I did, frequency separation on it, right? And I didn't really knew at the time that I was, losing a lot of texture on my subject's face, right? So yeah, I just didn't know, right? So now, over time, I ran into other photographers that basically preach, dodging and burning. So I said, okay, let me just, I never really took it up because whenever I did it, I felt I just wasn't doing it right. And one thing they kept saying is just keep at it, keep practicing, okay? And I did. I keep practicing every image that I did, even if I didn't use the dodge and burning to finish up that image. I started using dodge and burning. If I didn't like it, I scrapped it, and then I just go back to my frequency separation. But at least I made an attempt at every single image to use dodge and burning. And over time, I'm still not good at it. I'm not like a total expert at dodging and burning. But over time, I became a little bit more comfortable at it. I became, I'm able to just see little imperfections here and there in the image, and utilizing dodging and burning to help smooth that up. Whereas I would have just gone straight to frequency separation and utilized that to help balance out the lights and shadows. So that's my thoughts there. So Anthony is saying here, I use dodge and burn in fashion glamour shots to carve out the face. I'm not sure how you use fashion. I'm not sure how you carve out the face I'm sorry, you use dodge. I'm sorry. I thought you said frequency separation. Never mind. Never mind. But so Anthony's saying here, but as with anything, many different ways to do the same thing. Yes, there are multiple ways. You could use dodging and burning, you could use frequency separation, and you could use whatever other techniques there are out there to help smooth skin, patch tool, you know, whatever tools that works for most people or some people. They use that and they're comfortable with that and move forward. But I like utilizing dodging and burning. All right, so if you guys don't have any other comments about this particular image, I'm wondering, am I appearing dark or something on this broadcast? I can't tell. Yeah, I think this whole time I was just sitting here in the dark. You guys could have told me I was sitting in the dark. But anyways, if you guys don't have any comment about this particular image, then I will close it out. So if you guys want to submit your images, again, I will show you guys where you could do that. It is called Fine Art Photography and Modeling. Just go to that group. If you haven't joined it yet, submit a request to join the group. When you submit that request, there's 3 questions that generally pop up. Answer those 3 questions and you will be able to get into the group. Once you're in the group, or if you're already in the group, there's this pinned post at the top of the group. And in that pinned post, you go to the comment section of that pinned post. And in the comment here, you just basically write a comment, whatever it is, and then you add your image, okay? And once you add your image, basically it would show up on the Monday critique. I basically do these in chronological order. So basically I just go down the line and start critiquing images. So put your images in there and it will be critiqued. So going back here, let me switch back. So if you guys enjoy this video, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Put some comments down below. Let me know what you think about this video. If you have some different opinions about the critique, please put those below. And please share this video with your friends and family if you haven't already. And guys, if you got this far in this video and you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next Monday critique. Now, if you guys are live right now, I'm going to be terminating this live broadcast, and I'm just going to start a general broadcast immediately after this. So if you guys want to come and hang out, ask me any questions, you know, go ahead. I'll probably hang out there for like 30 minutes or so. So let's go. I'm going to terminate this and join me on the other live broadcast.